Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe podcast.
Hello and welcome to Emma's podcast. It is my universe, I'm telling you right now. I'm still a little riled up. I don't say riled up, I would say feisty. I was on fire. I'm just like determined. That's the word of the day today, being determined. And really realizing that when you stand up on your own 2 feet, you stand your ground, things are moving and shaking. But you have to understand and see the bigger picture because based on what happened, and I explained this on Monday, with Facebook and their support, customer help, not very helpful, but it's like I knew immediately when I received the first email back under that form, because they copy a form. I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. Yeah, I'm going to push back, and I push back, and I knew exactly what was the game. So even though that got me triggered at the beginning because I got irritated, I'm like, fine, you want to play the game, let's play the game because I am not going to give up. So it took 4 hours, but hey, made it happen. So be determined when you see things, and this is where you have to remove the emotions from it because I saw the pattern. I saw immediately what was going on. Even though I got triggered, I got a little ticked off and I said, fine, you're telling me I use the computer to do signature? I'm like, no, it's handwritten. There is no computer fake signature on this one. But changing the color of your signature, which legally speaking, blue is the one you cannot reproduce. So you always sign it in blue. I did it in blue in purpose. Actually, afterwards, I said, I'm not going to do it in black because I did it in black. And I'm like, I'm going to go to blue. And I knew it. So even though it triggered me because I had to redo that form just for 5 minutes, which was ridiculous, but that's fine. I'm like, okay, we're going to play that dirty game. I'm going to play that dirty game. But it's understanding what is going on, being able to really see. And that's always been a forte in my book. And thank God on this one, to see the overall picture immediately. When I was with Joel actually, and we're talking in his office, and where he was talking about some of the projects, the stuff he was working on. He would sit down and I could see on the front of me, it's like having a TV on the front of me. And this is every single time like that. And that's what that people don't understand. And I can irritate people when they start to talk a little too much and I interrupt. It's not being cocky. It's because I see the picture. I don't need the 2.5 hours talk on this one, or for somebody to hear themselves talking for 2.5 hours. I don't need to. It takes 5 minutes for me not even to go and do things. So it's very interesting when it's like being on the front of a TV when somebody talks to me and I see the piece of the puzzles being put together, fitting perfectly. So some people don't understand that and some do, but the majority of people don't understand that. It's like having that vision and seeing it immediately, like the problem solving. You're here to solve a problem, then you need that bigger picture. Some people don't have the bigger picture. They just have the narrow path they're on. And that's what I love when I studied a few decades ago, in consulting world. It was very interesting for me because looking at how company works, I got the best education on company and how they works. And that's what I love at the end of the day on everything I have done is how everything works together, how one group can impact another group or another business unit or an organization as an overhaul. And people don't realize because they're all in silo in their little world and they don't understand how do I impact my team, how do I impact the sales team, the marketing team, how do I impact the customer service team, and understanding that you're one piece in that big chess, or it's like the domino effects as well, If my job is not done properly, how much impact do I have around me and within the company? A lot of people do not have a clue on that. They don't realize how much they impact each other's. We're all working together no matter what. But when you start to understand what people are doing around you, and excuse me, I have had the privilege to work with a lot of people and learn from them. I took the time to learn what they were doing and how they were impacting others. This is where I started to look at the piece of the puzzle overall of the companies and looking at how every companies run their businesses. It helps when you do this, especially as a consulting person, because when you go into a company, and I have seen it, and I don't know why I was remembering this morning that story that happened when I was at Thomson Reuters. They had paid, oh God, a huge money for a company. And that's the problem too. That allegedly they would have been do the roadmap, they will do this, they will do that. At the end of the day, that gentleman had a playbook. Yes, he did. Problem is, your playbook, you cannot force it into a company. And I started to teach this and explain this. You have to understand how a company works. Now, you better to learn quickly. Generally, it's when you go and you the boots on the ground and you understand how what the dynamic of the company is and how they works. And being able to, with your little tool, your little playbook, your little toolbox, go in there and start to help and support. So this gentleman was supposed to create a roadmap and identified, because they were doing a huge change management, understand how every pieces of the puzzle were working. He stayed over there for a year and a half. He was being paid handsomely money, and he absolutely did just a pure disaster. And I realized that very quickly, actually. I was remembering, actually, the calendar. I have to explain that story of the calendar. That was the most horrifying thing, and thanks to Josh. Good Lord, Josh had a sense of managing people. I love Josh. Very pragmatic individual, but I love Josh. Super bright. Same with Jeannie. And those two were, to me, my heroes over there. Jeannie managed the entire department, and they were moving something into their department. Actually, they were doing a transition from one area to another, which was huge, actually, because they were part of their customer service, and that's what they were doing. So when I came on board, I came with an open mind, which surprised her and surprised everybody. I never go to a company with anything else than an open mind. Because when I walked in, I don't know what to expect, and I want to see in my own, from my own eyes what's going on. I have no expectation except being part of it and helping them. So when I realized I was there the first week, my calendar looks like a freaking Christmas tree. I am not kidding. The guy wanted I start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I will start here at 7 because I have over an hour of driving across town, meaning I'm going to head the traffic, and this is not happening. I'm not spending 2 hours in traffic just for this. So that was number one. So he was basically micromanaging, and there were so many ridiculous meetings during the day. It was nearly impossible to work. And I started to get irritated because it was boring, literally boring meetings that did not make any sense at all. So I went and talked to Josh, and I said, Josh, I don't want to be mean, but my calendar looks like a Christmas tree, and that's not happening. I said, no, I'm not going to be attending to those meetings. This is ridiculous. I don't need this. The only thing I need to do is hit the ground running, understanding what we're supposed to do and how we were supposed to doing it. His documentation was so bad. Even my archive at the beginning, when I did the archive for the other company and I built up those archives, it was even worse than that documentation. So I had no understanding. You would have picked up someone from the street. They would have had no idea how to do the job. When you have documentation, you pick up anyone from the street. They should be able to sit on the front of the computer, follow the directions, do the job. It was nearly impossible to do it. So badly it was done. So that was problem number 2. Then every time we discover along the way issues after issues because he was unable to actually identify the right group, the right people, and the right roadmap and process and how things were working. He spent a year and a half. Imagine you're there for, was there in what, January, something like that, until May, because COVID hit and we were working remote in May, at the end of April, May. April. By March, April, we were all working remote. So that gives you an idea for that. But within a week or two, I figured out he was, I don't want to say a fraud, but he was incompetent at what he was doing. Because unfortunately, and that has been said, I even reposted this one on Facebook, was, people can have MBAs, PhDs. It doesn't stop them to be idiots and be incompetent. Some people are very good at learning, passing tests. But when it comes to real life, working, they're incapable to do that. And I've seen it too many times. And this gentleman had a playbook, then he was trying, like I always said, trying to force a triangle into a square peg doesn't work. So after a few weeks, and we had deadline after deadline, we were able to remap some of the stuff, modify a bunch of stuff. I did identify a lot of issues, and I passed it on to those guys. Even at the end, I did it for free. I did a full summary with the roadmap of everything for those guys to take in and do whatever they wanted at the end of the day. But we identified every single issue, and it was one problem after another. It never stopped. And I'm laughing because I'm like, okay, guys, one day, and this is how you see leadership, okay? That's the best leadership I ever worked with. I work with a few of them out of all of the decades I worked. What I really say real, true leaders are people that in a time of crisis, I remember Ginny and Josh, they put us into a room and said, well, we need to talk. I'm like, okay. So we were 3 of us sitting, and 2 of them were there. They had a meeting where they got basically rolled over by a boss, literally, because they wanted the deadline. They wanted this. It was unrealistic. And they were, instead of screaming and yelling, like most people would do, they had a very friendly voice, and even they were stressed out, they were very nice, and we're talking, and we were trying to work this out. And this is what I love. This is why I love Agile better than I love Waterfall, because we all sat in a room and it's like, okay, so we need to work on the weekends. So it's like, yeah, we probably will. I say, yeah, okay, not a problem. We can work on the weekend. And I was like, well, we need to meet the deadline, which was not even a week. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do this and let's work it out. I said, it's feasible. And they were looking at me like I was crazy. I said, guys, it's feasible. We can do it. Not a problem. They looked at me like I was crazy. I'm like, no, we can do it. I said, if we work over the weekends, so we work for 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks straight, 2 weekends straight. So that, imagine for 3 weeks straight, we put a lot of hours to get the things done. And we did, actually. And I remember Jeannie, who looked at me and said, I've been impressed since day one. I said, why are you impressed? I said, well, one, you showed up, you had an open mind. You never had any expectation. I said, exactly. I said, I didn't know where I was going, and I was open to it. If you're not open, then you're going to fail at some level. Your expectations going to cloud every judgment you've got. And 2, she said, yeah, when you sat down in that meeting and you say, yeah, we can do it. I said, I could not believe it. I said, yeah. I said, my motto is, if Emma said it's time to run for the hills, then we're done. I said, if it's feasible, I will say it's feasible. If it's not, I will say to you it's not. And I said, yes, it was long hours, but we were able to deliver things in time. So imagine working with a project from day one. It's one problem after another, and you think you got everything done and crazy, and like, okay, it's cool, we made it, blah, blah, blah. And then you get another problem. And then you get another problem. You're like, really? What was, to me, amazing at the end was the following year, they reopened the budget for me to come back on board again, which was awesome. For me, it was a big honor when you got a company calling you back and say, well, we work on it for 8 months. They work hard. They took my feedbacks. They took what they needed from the feedbacks, and in 8 months, I was stunned. And I even wrote that at the end for those guys for the following year. I wrote a very long email for both of them that I've never worked with people like that turn around projects within 8 months and turn it into something even better. A lot of people struggle. Those guys work very hard. I saw such a great working group. And I'm talking people sitting around the table from different departments, being able to talk about everything they got. And I was listening. I wasn't participating, actually. I was listening, and I said to Jeannie, I said, yeah, I'm listening to it because this was very interesting to see how they interacted with themselves. They were really agile leaders, people who work together, not against each other. So I really appreciated to work with those guys. It was, to me, Thomson Reuters is one of the company that not everybody can work in because the mentality and how they do things. But for me, it fits who I am. The same with Korn Ferry. Korn Ferry was another great company. I work there as well. The mentality, not everybody fits in that company too. You have to have a specific state of mind to be able to work there. It's like the Club Med. If you've never been to the Club Med, that's the same kind of thing. You have to have a different mind to do things like that. So you're not conventional, you're unconventional. But I really loved all of those people. I love to work with those guys, but I learned so much more. But you have to be honest. Sometimes paying big bucks for people who don't know what they're doing is quite sad. But man, that guy with the calendar, I will always remember the calendar. My jaw dropped. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? They were no hours on hours. It was ridiculous. And I'm like, Josh, why do I show up at 9 o'clock? So I'm not showing up. So I was showing up at like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I had the pop-ups, if I'm correct. Yes, I had my dogs. And I was dropping them off, I believe, at doggy daycare most of the time, which was nice. So they spend the day over there, and at least twice, 2 or 3 times a week. And otherwise, they were in their crates, which Daddy had big issues with the crates. Mac was fine, but Daddy, holy crap, the girl... insane, literally insane. She got out one time of the crate. I still don't have a clue how she did it because the pen and the door were still locked. I have no idea how she did it. Seriously, maybe she went in between the bars. I have no idea. But it's always those great experiences when you see things and you course correct, and that's what I do. I'm a fixer. I'm somebody who comes somewhere who will strategize and help people. But it was very interesting for me to watch how they were doing things, seriously. So this is the kind of story I wanted to share today because, you know, when you're looking at people and the competency, even if you have a playbook, you have to learn how to adapt that playbook. The companies will not adapt to your playbook. You need to adapt the playbook based on how the company runs. And a lot of people made mistakes and do some stupid things within companies because they're trying to push something that doesn't work. For me, because I love to learn, I'm a sponge. Everything I've done through and the knowledge I have, I'm surprised myself on some of the stuff too because the range of knowledge I have can go from cutting trees to cooking to technology to how to run company to be a strategist to telling you who in for the gas center like I did. I predicted OPEC to go down and they went down, and I did it 2 years before they went down, and they were not number one anymore, and the US took over because I knew it and I was watching it, and I know the Russia was the wild card. They're always the wild card, actually. They don't play nice with everybody, so they're always the wild card. But it's very interesting when you open your mind how much knowledge you can acquire and continue to acquire through the years. It's not when you're in your 20s, because I'm hearing people say, when you're 20, I'm like, I use a crap if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70 years old. You have that possibility to learn. Do not let anyone shoot in the foot, rain on your parade. Learn when you got to learn, but continue to be that book of knowledge. And that's what I love with me, because I have learned, it's not being cocky or anything else like that, but I have learned by being the boots on the ground, rolling up the sleeves. I have learned everything I have to learn with everything I've got, and the knowledge I've got. Now I'm passing it on to help companies and people. Isn't it amazing? I do. I love it. All my love, guys, and we'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here?
Emma's Universe Podcast. Universe Podcast.